But we'll go ahead and get rolling for today. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Whether you're joining us from your dorm room, your internship site, your kitchen table, or somewhere in between, we're glad you're here. Tonight, we're bringing together social work students from across the country, and that alone is something really powerful. If you don't know me, my name is Dwayne Brejak. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the executive director for the Alaska, Michigan, and International Districts for NASW. And I have the privilege of welcoming you to our National NASW Student Series webinar, What Students Need to Know About Problem Gambling Prevention and Treatment. We're especially excited to host this important conversation with you this evening. So before we dive in, quick reality check. So if you're feeling excited about your future in social work, we love that. Like I said, if you are a graduate in the next couple of weeks, we are so welcoming you to the profession. We're excited you have chosen social work. And please keep us in the loop if you need any support as you start your professional journey. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed about your career or the world, totally valid. And if you're wondering, what am I actually going to do with this degree after you graduate? Also, you are in the right place. Tonight's topic is one that many social workers don't get enough exposure to during their education, whether that's in their program, through their bachelor's or master's degree, or out in the profession. There's very little professional education related to our topic here tonight. But it is absolutely something that you will encounter in practice. I was talking to Dr. Stewart a little bit before this. I don't know how it is in your states, but I get ads all the time for new gambling platforms, the new online casinos, all that sort of stuff. And I think we're going to continue to see this be a larger and larger issue across the country. So tonight's topic is one that, as we talk about problem gambling, it's often called a hidden addiction, yet it impacts families, individuals, and communities, and that can be profound. As future social workers, understanding how to recognize, prevent, and respond to gambling-related harm is an essential and often overlooked part of providing holistic, ethical care. So that's what we're here today. We're so fortunate to have an expert with us who is deeply engaged in this work. I'm honored to introduce Dr. Gregory Stewart, Associate Professor of Social Work at the University of Cincinnati. Dr. Stewart is a nationally recognized leader in problem gambling prevention and treatment and is the founding member of the Problem Gambling Prevention and Treatment Coalition of Southwest Ohio, which has grown into a registered nonprofit dedicated to expanding awareness and services in this space. From 2022 to 2025, Dr. Stewart served as principal investigator on 7 grants, totaling nearly $250,000, helping to train more than 500 mental health and prevention professionals, as well as college students across 14 Ohio counties. Dr. Stewart is also former president of the NASW Ohio chapter. So thank you for your service there, bringing both academic experience and strong professional leadership into this work. So tonight, Dr. Stewart will share practical insights and real-world strategies to help you better understand and address problem gambling in your future practice. We hope that you will stay engaged. Please ask questions in the chat. Use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to come off mute. Dr. Stewart is open to feedback and conversations and questions all throughout the presentation today. So please, we hope to make this engaging and ask your questions. So with that, it is my pleasure to turn things over to Dr. Stewart. We're so glad to have you with us here tonight. Thanks, Dr. Stewart.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. For those who are with us, if you were not aware, 60% of the mental health services in the United States is offered by social workers. And so I am here to advocate that social workers are also aware of problem gambling prevention and treatment as a possible component of the services that they might provide in the communities where they live. The over 700,000 social workers in America were essential to what goes on in our country. And I'm not sure about your state, but I could tell you that for the state of Ohio, there are not enough social workers in the room to be able to make people aware of the concerns in terms of prevention in this area, and certainly are not aware or possibly being involved in the treatment space related to this challenge in the state of Ohio. Sports betting in our state began in January of 2023. So I'm trying to paint a picture for you. So in December of 2022, so a month before sports betting, about 500 people called the helpline in our state for gambling, about 500 people. That first month of sports betting in the state of Ohio in January of 2023, 1,500 people called the helpline the very first month. Since then, our state has been either second or third in the country under many occasions in terms of those who are in our state who are gambling, and there's a way for the state to be able to see them that people may not be aware that because of geolocating, when people bet by state, people are able to see where they are physically. So for the most part, they're close to our major cities in the state of Ohio when they're doing sports betting around major events in our state, and it very much is a billion-dollar business. What I'm here tonight to talk about is that there is a role for social workers in this space. My hope is that I'm able to talk with you about what you may do as a professional, and then also how you may be involved in the community where you live in a number of different ways. So I'm starting off to say wherever you are in the country, if you are interested in receiving continuing education hours, if you have a license in social work, or if you have a license in addiction, our coalition is offering continuing education for an event we're going to have May 29th. So this is me saying to you that who are participating this evening, there's some continuing education that we ask social workers to have in terms of going into this work, whether it's around prevention or treatment. There are best practices that we hope that you would be aware of as you go to meet people where they are in their communities. If you're interested, there's an opportunity to register via Zoom, and we generally have somewhere between 60 and 100 people who participate online with us. If you're anywhere in a geographic area and want to come in person, it would also be free for in-person attendance. So tonight, I'm going to talk about how I've tried to function over the last 3 years in terms of reaching out to professionals in our state, reaching out to college students, whether they be in social work or counseling or addiction studies, that we are helping them know more about any number of challenges. So the types of gambling, the evidence-based resources that are available in this space, how might we incorporate this into what goes on in the classroom so that the day a student graduates with that bachelor's degree or master's degree prepared to go into work, that they have this knowledge prepared to go into an agency setting. So I share with you some ideas of what gambling may be in the United States. And here's what I'm going to ask you to participate under the chat. That I'm going to ask you to put into the chat, what are the top two areas that you believe college age students participate in related to gambling? And so I'm going to ask you to type into the chat now, what are those top two areas that you think students will participate in or do participate in related to gambling? I'm going to follow the chat here and see what you put in. Okay, so I see sports betting. I see online sports betting, quite a few electronic gaming, gaming tables. So absolutely, the number one area for college students would be around sports betting. And depending on what state someone lives in, it may be the number one area of betting for that state. It is for the state of Ohio. So even though we have a lottery, even though we also have many casinos spread throughout our major cities throughout the state, sports betting is number one in our state. Think about that first Super Bowl in 2023. So January of 23, we started sports betting in our state. Super Bowl occurring. Ohio had a team they were rooting for. We were second to state of New York in the amount of money that was bet on that game. So we beat California, we beat other states, Texas. So I give you some sense that we are a state that publicity around this is large. Depending on what media you go into, you can't help but hear messages around gambling of some sort. And so I share with you today to be able to answer questions that you might have about some of these challenges that we have in front of us. So in December of 2022, the number of people that were determined to have problem gambling disorder in Ohio was 250,000 people. This is prior to sports betting. Our state just did a survey in fall of 2025, and our hope is that we'll have additional data to talk about how large this challenge has now grown. There's some estimates that that number of individuals has doubled. So gambling's been going on in America for over 200 years. And so you could see that in 1776, it was even used as part of a way for the country to generate revenue. So I would share with you this evening, there may be some individuals who are attending tonight because they have a person in mind. And so I'm asking you too also under the chat not to name the person, but whether you might indicate your interest in attending this evening. May it be because you have a classmate, you have a family member, you have a friend that you may have some concerns about related to their gambling. And so once again, if you might put that under the chat to give us some idea of if there's anyone you're concerned with, that we may sort of have that information as we go into the meeting. So, is there a classmate, a family member, or a friend that you're concerned about? If you would indicate that under the chat. I'm going to share the story of an individual, Denmark Vesey, who uh, is indicated, and this is through sources of the National Park Service, that he actually won a lottery in 1800, that he used the money that he received to actually buy his freedom in the state of South Carolina. An extraordinary thing for the time in terms of the amount of money he won, and he was able to purchase his freedom with those dollars. One of the things I would share with you is there is a long history of gambling of some sort in the African American community, and it certainly goes back to 1800 or before in terms of what has happened in our community. When I asked you to sort of identify someone you're concerned about, I'm sort of sharing why I got into this work in the first place. I'm very involved in the community where I live in the city of Cincinnati, a predominantly African American community called Evanston. At a time about 10 years ago, I was council president. And back in 10 years ago, I would have been very excited to tell you, oh, the local casino is sending a van to Evanston to pick up our seniors and take them to the casino. I would have heard things in terms of what the benefits were for them to go to that kind of experience. Um, in 2026, may have some additional opinions, and so I'm going to ask you to engage in possibly some opinions. So once again, under the chat, what might be some reasons why people gamble? What are some of the positives that people would say about their gambling? So once again, under the chat, I would ask you to put what are some of the things that you think people would say are positives about gambling? As a form of self-care for them. Um, Dopamine rush, it's winning. Adrenaline rush, social, free drinks, adrenaline gets me outdoors. I socialize more, I dream more. Entertainment, absolutely. Earn money to make budget. They believe they can make money easily. How about a couple more? Sometimes you get free stuff when you go, tickets, food. So it may be a casino, it may be a racetrack, it may be bingo. So any number of these items that you mentioned would apply in those areas. Okay. So let me now ask what may be some of the challenges that people experience when they gamble. So we have a real geographically diverse audience this evening. From some of the things you hear on the news, some of the things you may have experienced in your personal sphere, what would be some of the things that may also come up that people indicate are challenges that they may have experienced as a result of gambling. So once again, putting those under the chat. Fear at overspending and losing budget quickly. Thank you. How about a couple more? Ways that people experiencing challenge as a result of their gambling. Others, bad habits are there, financial illiteracy, substance use. I missed a couple. I got to go back here. Getting sucked in and isolated, putting themselves in danger or in debt. How about a couple more? I see a few more. Possibly crime, dealing with seedy people, time blindness at the casino. Great point. If you did not know this, casinos do not have clocks in the facilities because they don't want you to know what time it is. So there are no clocks to be visibly seen in casinos as you go into them. Now, there's other things they have responsibilities to do, but they don't have to do clocks. Living in secret from others they are close with. So thank you so much for sharing. So going back once again to the history of gambling in the United States, commercial gaming at one point was legal in the state of Nevada. That I'm old enough to remember that there was a point in American history that that was the only place you could go to gamble, and you had to get on a plane and go there. And so an example was in the year 1978 that that little airport was a top charter aircraft destination in the world. So think of all the major cities in the world, whether it's Paris or London or New York, Los Angeles, that airport was the top charter aircraft destination that year, once again, because people wanted to go to gamble. You could see some of the prices from that year or those years, $1.59 for some sort of meal or $2.95 for a meal. It also was a place that they subsidized the cost of meals as well as the cost of hotels because they wanted you to spend your money on gambling. At one point, we also had a song that incorporated gambling in terms of the prestige of it, and that you might play the lottery and get rich as a result of that. Full of love, peace, and happiness. This is a magazine from the city of Cincinnati, and this is from 1991 and shows a photograph of the lottery advertising at the time. And what I'm going to ask is under the chat if you might put what are the visuals of what's in this photo that might lead someone in 1991 to say, "Hey, I gotta do this." We've heard the message, "Come and play the Ohio Lottery." Since then, they have a slogan, "You got to play to win." But what do we see visually? So once again, under the chat, if you might put this under the chat, what are the visuals that we see here? Everyone looks super happy. Um, let's see, how about a couple more? Driving a nice car, people of color living in wealth, happy with lots of money, cash, looking good. So absolutely, so visuals here to say to people, hey, this looks like this is something I want to do because of what is being portrayed in this photograph. One of the things as a professional that does this work, I would share that there may be some communities that are more targeted than others, and I'm going to share a couple things with you about why I would say that. Expensive jewelry, looking good. So let's fast forward to 2024 and present day, and who's in the ads. So two of the major entertainers in the world are promoting this opportunity for communities. In some individuals in the African American community would say, well, this gives an extra incentive to people in our community to participate in online sports betting. So there are many other individuals that you could probably name who are in these type of ads. What we're hoping the day will come is that there is also individuals who would be sharing that there may be also some challenges that come with this. What I would share with you is we look at these particular ads. You bet $5 and you get 200. There's a lot of fine print that comes with this. So what people don't bother to do is to read that fine print as part of these ads, so that people may want to be concerned about, do you really get that $200, or may you be losing $200 before you're over in terms of entering some of these type of experiences. So as people enter DraftKings or FanDuels or others, there may be some challenges that they're not aware of because they didn't read the fine print. Let me pause here and see if there's any questions under the chat about online sports betting or gambling in major ways in our country, whether it be the lottery and others. Also under the chat, I'm wondering, there are two states where you cannot gamble, and if in what would those two states be? So wondering if you also are aware of what are the two states that people, okay, so Utah, Sabrina, thank you. Utah is one of them. And it's built into their state constitution that gambling is not allowed in their state under any form. There's one more. Anybody know what that is? It's Hawaii. And so Hawaii also has it in that when they became a state, that was also a requirement of them becoming a state, is that they did not want to have gambling as part of what went on in their particular state. So I think both states have very different reasons about why they chose that, but the idea that that's a value that those states have. So many
There was
individuals
one
are
question that came through
okay.
that I can bring up around the online gambling. Since this is a fairly new market, are you all starting to see that maybe traditional gambling services like casinos are starting to lose money as people transition to online?
That's a very interesting question. So, in the state of Ohio, there's actually some overlap with casinos. And so, if you were to walk into any of the casinos in the state of Ohio, there's a section of each of those facilities that is dedicated to online sports betting. They have kiosks that people can walk up to. They have people who can assist them if they have questions about how to do that for the first time. But only 2% of the people who do sports betting in the state of Ohio use those facilities to do that. So the other 98% are using their phone. Um, so I would say horse racing in the state of Ohio has not been impacted by this. The facilities that do horse racing are still going strong and probably have improved with what they do in attracting individuals. The casinos are constantly changing to attract people and the advertising that goes on. The lottery, the same thing. Is there what I would say, unfortunately, is that there are more individuals who are betting larger amounts. So one person may be doing things at a casino, they may be doing horse racing, they may be doing the lottery, and now they're doing sports betting. So I think that's the challenge that some people are having.
That makes a lot of sense. And this might come up later, so feel free to just save it if it is something that's coming. But as you think about the future of gambling addiction, one of the other things that seems to have come in the last couple of years is now these online betting platforms where you pretty much can bet on like anything, like
Yes.
who the next Pope is going to be or who's going to win the Oscar. I'm wondering how that is starting to change some of the landscape in kind of the gambling space as well. That people can really bet on anything now, as opposed to more maybe sports or traditional gaming platforms.
And depending on the state, there's actually legislation being discussed to help prevent some of that. Because what may happen as a result of that is, could there be some cheating that goes on amongst the professional athletes or the any other kind of level of athlete, um, so that there are steps being taken to look at some of those concerns. You may have heard in the last 6 months some folks in some of our professional basketball teams being involved in some of this doing things that were not appropriate related to betting. The level of betting that you describe helps promote that type of um, uh, betting in terms of the challenges that may come out of this. Our governor in Ohio, he's finishing his second term. One of the things that he regrets is allowing people to be able to bet to the extent that they are able to bet in the state of Ohio, because there are some challenges that they're seeing that our state was not ready for yet in terms of the number of people, the amount of money, and the things that come out of that. I will unfortunately say that there is some correlation between bankruptcies, between crime, between gambling is the highest correlation to suicide completion amongst any addiction. And so there's a number of challenges that come from this disorder. And it is a disorder that is listed in the DSM-5. It involves repeated problem gambling behavior, leading to problems for the individual, families, and society. Adults and adolescents with gambling disorders have trouble controlling their gambling. In the state of Ohio, it's illegal to gamble under age 21, but yet, even prior to sports betting, there was data that showed that 30,000 individuals under age 21 were gambling, and that number was probably a low estimate. So there is concerns that young people are smart, and that they are finding ways to gamble that the law should not be allowing them to do. This is an example of a screening that may be most appropriate for college age students. And so just sharing some of the kinds of questions that someone might ask. And this tool is available online, and someone could complete it online as a way for them to do a self-assessment or for someone to share with someone else around this challenge. So the first being, um, is someone lying or hiding from others the money that they won or lost betting or gambling? In the past 12 months, has anyone asked you to stop gambling? In the past 12 months, have you bet or gambled with things intended for other purposes? As part of the work I do in our coalition, we do presentations in college classrooms. 100% of the college classrooms that I presented to, there was at least one student who's told a story of a classmate that they were aware of that lost a significant amount of their money that they was intended to spend on tuition through some part of gambling. And then question four, in the past 12 months, has betting or gambling become your social activities or conversation, the central part of that? So this is an online survey that's geared more towards college age students. It's being administered in college wellness centers, possibly in residential life experiences. And so for those of you in the video this evening, my hope is that you're coming away from tonight with some possible resources that may be able to be used on your campus or be able to be used in an agency in which you are working or may want to work, or you yourself may have a goal to do private practice work. And there will be some things that I share with you now about other ways that you might assess individuals who have a challenge. Another screening that we would hope may be used in other venues would be the brief social gambling screen. In my role at the University of Cincinnati, I place bachelor's and social work students in field placements all over the country. One of the things that came out of some of the grants that I was able to obtain is that we engaged over 80 of our students in learning this work while they were still students. Many of them obtained a certain level of knowledge prior to them going into their field placements. And as a result of this, some of the agencies in which they were placed chose to do more with the issue of screening for gambling. So might this be something that occurs in a hospital emergency room? If they're screening for substance use disorder, might they also screen around gambling? If it's a facility that has inpatient substance use treatment, might they also screen for gambling? Is this if this is a situation in which social services treatment is going into a jail or a prison, and they screen for substance use, might they also screen for gambling? So that was a brief survey, and then there are others that are much more detailed oriented. I won't go through them all, but a very strong one that's used throughout the United States is the South Oaks gambling screening. Um, so one of the ways that gambling is treated is cognitive behavioral therapy. And so I would imagine that our participants this evening are familiar with this area, but the idea of cognitive distortions about gambling, how could those be corrected? Developing their problem solving skills, social skills, teaching about relapse prevention. In the state of Ohio, the state has created what they call an Ohio Gambling Disorder Endorsement. This is administered through our Ohio Chemical Dependency Board, and that it's a way for professionals who have an addiction credential to get additional knowledge that this may be done in terms of treatment in their facilities. I've been an advocate that social workers also obtain this information, whether they already have an independent license or are working towards one, for the knowledge that comes with this. There was a May 29th session that I shared at the beginning of the presentation. Those 3 hours of that event on May 29th could also go to someone's gambling endorsement in the state of Ohio towards the 30 hours that they need for that. Once again, more information about the gambling endorsement and why that's important in our state, and additional knowledge that's expected of someone to know the resources that are necessary for someone if they do indicate a challenge in this area.
Do you find that other states have a similar sort of educational opportunity? I know in Michigan, I do not believe our addictions credential has anything specifically related to gambling. So I'm just curious if you know.
Many states have not done it individually, but there is some adopting from states of the national or international gambling credentials. So there is an organization in the United States that has produced a credential that could service someone wherever they are in the United States, and some states are choosing to point people in that direction if they want to develop additional expertise. So there is an examination that's tied to it. There's an educational level that's tied to it. But Ohio has its own, but some other states have moved towards supporting this national or international credential. And so once again, more information about the endorsement. The state of Ohio has developed what they call the Ohio model. So that a certain portion of dollars, whether it be related to the lottery, whether it be related to sports betting, horse racing, or anything administered by the state, a certain portion of those dollars goes back to prevention programming within our state, as well as goes into treatment programming within our state as well. So there's a major effort to increase the number of individuals and agencies that are prepared to do problem gambling treatment. And there's also a major effort to improve problem gambling prevention in the community and on all college campuses, whether they be public or private within our state. So the funding sources that get together to look at how those dollars will be dispersed is that group called Ohio for Responsible Gaming that administers some of those dollars. So, out of the use of those dollars, there have been a number of campaigns and resources that individuals might engage in order to meet someone where they are in their challenge. So, one example would be pause before you play. So, those of us who do this work, we're not making a value judgment about whether gambling is good or bad, but we are saying through this campaign that we would encourage people to pause before they play and that it helps them think about what their awareness level ought to be. Have they set a limit? Have they made a determination to not be gambling while intoxicated? So any number of ways that, as they make that pause, that they are thinking about that they want this to be an entertainment experience and not one that they would regret in the future. Another campaign that is funded by the dollars that are available is called Change the Game. And then once again, in the state of Ohio, it is illegal for anyone under age 21 to be betting. However, we know that there are individuals under that age that are playing games on their phones that resemble very strongly gambling. There are individuals under age 21 who have figured out a way to get access to a parent's financial situations or to a parent's phone, or someone may have given them access to do things online that they should not have been able to do that, or they've falsified the driver's license or something like that to be able to get access to some of these things. So once again, with this campaign, we're saying change the game. Ohio is a way to remind individuals that this is something they ought to be considering. Is there someone who might be in high school who is increasing use of substance use or abuse? And once again, they shouldn't be drinking underage at all, but might that be going on and other things connected to their involvement in gaming or gambling? Um, we talk about too how someone may have got started in this type of challenge. So think about the teenager or the child who was invited to go along with a parent to a racetrack. And so they had a chance to spend time with that parent or older sibling, and they saw the races, they saw the enthusiasm, they saw people winning, etc. Or we think of a situation where someone may have bought a lottery ticket for someone for their birthday. And imagine that lottery ticket hitting a win the first time that person received that birthday present. So the idea of what may have been the way that someone was introduced that this gambling stuff's pretty fun, even though that person's underage, they may have seen it for a number of years and continue that activity as they became an adult. But Change the Game is a message to individuals who are 21 years of age or under in our state about these concerns. In the state of Ohio, there's also, and this is a national campaign, so this is not just Ohio. Time Out could be many states in the state of Ohio that have adopted this campaign. This is a resource for someone who believes they have a challenge with their gambling and they want to step away from it, possibly for a year, possibly for 5 years, or possibly for life. The person does have to go into a facility to sign up for this. I'll describe a situation of one of the casinos in downtown Cincinnati. There's a section of the building before you get to the games where you come into the lobby and you might say to someone in that lobby, "I'm here to sign up for timeout." They would take them to a room they do not have to go through the floor of the facility. It's prior to that. The room has literature in it. There's a computer in that room, and the person is there to make a decision about are they going to ban themselves for 1 year, for 5 years, or for life from being able to bet amongst the facility that's being owned in this venture. So let's say it's the Hard Rock Casino in downtown Cincinnati. If I'm banning myself for a year, not only am I banning myself from Hard Rock in the state of Ohio, but I'm also banning myself from Hard Rock wherever it is in the country. And because of this being an Ohio program, I'm also banning myself from other casinos in the state of Ohio. So those casinos share the list. If you were not aware of this, there's visual recognition of individuals as you go into casinos. And so if I'm on that list, it won't be long before a casino knows that I'm in the facility, and they would be coming up to me to encourage me to leave that facility if I've entered having signed myself out to this type of experience. Let me pause here and see if there's any questions about Time Out Ohio. So once again, this might be a resource that a therapist might use with a client. This might be a resource that someone shares with a family member or friend, but a way to help. So Kimberly, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, after they go through all of that to ban themselves from a facility, how easy is it to take off that ban?
They have to, thank you for the question. They actually have to wait till that time is expired. So there is no taking yourself off early, but it could be the day after. So 365 day, that 1 year ban, it may be day 366, and that person goes back into there says, "I want to get off that list now." That they could do it then, but they cannot take themselves off earlier. But once again, it's a way for that person to use all the tools in their tool belt, if you will, for them to reduce their gambling or to abstain from gambling. Thank you for the question.
I had a question.
Sure.
And I'm very not very familiar as, that's why I'm here, to learn, but is can family members like put another family member on that, or it's something they have to do willingly, like themselves?
And that's a fantastic question. That imagine we're in that Hard Rock facility, and the person who's sitting at the computer has to be the person who's going to ban themselves. Now, a family member may be with them, but that the person who is doing the signing out, they have to want to do it themselves and acknowledge that they're doing it themselves. Now, I will share you though, what are the things that might come to help someone decide that they're going to do this. So whether you put it under the chat or you want to take yourself off mute, what might be something that persuades me as a person who may have a family, who may be employed, who may have lost a significant portion of my income through my gambling, and some troubles that may have come with that. What might be some incentives for me to go in there and ban myself? So if you have a hand raised or want to take yourself off mute, what might be some incentives? I see a couple comments under the chat. Condition of family court to keep children. Okay. Yeah, there may be some legal incentive for someone to acknowledge the things that are going on in their life and what they may have to do in order to have someone um, use all the tools in their tool belt to help in their recovery. A similar story to what Kimberly named there about a condition of family court. I'm very familiar with someone who has a lived experience, and this person described that she wanted to be able to see her grandchildren, and her children, her adult children said because of the extent of her gambling disorder, that things were so severe that the her adult children were not letting her see her grandchildren because they did not want their grandchildren exposed to that. So one of the incentives of that person in their recovery was, and this is a statement she makes. One of the reasons I am abstaining from gambling is I want to be able to see my grandchildren. So there may be any number of motivators. Um, I also see a statement they might not have the um, and this is sort of blocked out on my screen here, something abstain without force, or may lose support system. So very appropriate. There may be individuals that says if things don't change, they may no longer be willing to be a support system for that person. So thank you.
Dr. Stewart, have you started to see any of this impact licensed professionals? I know we see occasionally folks with substance use issues that go through the disciplinary process and often have to go through like a mandated disciplinary action. I'm so just curious if that's starting to show up in social work or other behavioral health spaces.
I have not seen this. I regularly do look at the, for those of you who may not be aware, for the state of Ohio, for our Ohio Counselor, Social Worker, and Marriage and Family Board, there's a monthly newsletter. And that newsletter does indicate individuals who have received sanctions from their license or lost their license due to violation of the state of Ohio Code of Ethics. I'm not seeing gambling on that list, but here's where it may come up for other challenges that people are experiencing. The state of Ohio does not keep data to the point that we can correlate gambling with bankruptcy, but we do know bankruptcies have been increasing in the state of Ohio. We do know that um, the financial security of individuals in the state of Ohio is more fragile than it's ever been, and we do believe that gambling is one of the things that's contributing to that. So one of the things that we've recently had in some of the discussions I've been in is whether we're also taking this kind of information to attorneys so that as they work with their clients that are filing for bankruptcy, that there's some knowledge of the challenges that people may have gone through, so that this is not a repeating cycle for individuals. We also know that violence, whether it be domestic violence or human trafficking, also can be connected to gambling disorder. So there are a number of ways that we are trying to look at what are the challenges. We're talking to our colleagues in a variety of systems, including the criminal justice system, about what are the things that they see. We have heard very detailed stories about the gambling that occurs in jails and prisons over the weekend. And on Mondays or Tuesdays after that weekend is when people want to be paid the money that they won by the people who lost the bet. So once again, even in facilities like prisons and jails, what are the things that we hopefully can be educating people about how to reduce some of the challenges that they're seeing? This is a slide to speak to some of the funds that were used in 2024 and 2025 to once again engage social workers and students around knowing about more about these topics. And there was specific effort to also make people aware of substance use disorder and a correlation to problem gambling disorder. So in a few seconds, you'll see some of the data that we try to keep track of. I was involved with three other colleagues at the University of Cincinnati, so several of our major college campuses, including someone who was based in residential life and some of the work that we did. We also implemented a course in which someone could receive course credit for this. That was a required course in the social work curriculum. This same course enables someone to obtain a prevention credential in the state of Ohio. Then in the state of Ohio, we also have 4 levels of prevention credentials that people could also operate under in terms of their employment. This course was tied to one of those levels to help people once again have more tools in their tool belt as they look for employment beyond the University of Cincinnati. We also shared with a number of our partnering agencies places that wanted to expand their knowledge about problem gambling prevention and treatment. We had students that we were able to place at some of these agencies that also had that same interest. So some of the agencies that we place students at are now agencies listed on the state of Ohio roster of providers, whether it be around prevention or treatment because of some of the collaborations we had. I mentioned earlier that the grant helped us to reward people, if you will, with the kinds of credentials that they wanted to earn to know more about this work and once again progress professionally. So the grant also paid for some of the fees for them to earn a prevention credential in Ohio or an addiction credential in Ohio, or pay for their license in social work or their LSW examination fee. So one of the outcomes that we had from this grant, and we were the only institution like this in the state of Ohio that did some of this work, was to help students increase their credentials, knowing about problem gambling prevention and treatment, but also having experiences in which they knew more about substance use disorder. But the idea of preparing students while they were still students so that the day that they have graduated and have that LSW, could they be more marketable and be contributing from first day in a number of different facilities that were interested in doing this type of work. So this is a slide from very soon to when this grant ended. The number of people who have obtained additional credentials that were part of this experience has doubled. So the things that were pending or have now come to be, there are people who had applied for things who didn't at the time have it, and so once again moving forward. So let me pause and just see, depending on what state someone's in, whether social workers in your state are also obtaining credentials in addiction. So Ohio is one of those states that social workers also are also often obtaining a credential in addiction. If you're in a state that does that as well, if you might put the name of the state under the chat. And I see a couple trying to pop up here. So Illinois, Missouri. Okay, Michigan offers addiction credentials. And so once again, knowing that social workers are doing a great deal in terms of our mental health system in America, what I share with some of the students I work with is in our state, we certainly have students who are going to be earning their license in social work and eventually earning an independent license in social work. But many of our students are also going to obtain the highest level of addiction credential in our same state. For those students, they certainly will be more competitive as they seek eventual leadership roles in agencies, so whether they want to be directors or vice presidents or presidents of things related to the agencies they may be serving in. So it's a way for them to be competitive or more competitive in the experiences that they will seek for the future. And so I see Alaska. Okay, great. So this is just, and I'll go quickly through this part to make sure I'm leaving time for questions. These are just some visuals for the coalition that was established in our section of the state of Ohio, a way for students to be engaged in this work while they are still students. So um, Miriam, for example, was a sophomore in college when she did a year of a internship. So this was not her senior year internship in social work, but she was actually a sophomore when she began to do some of the work with us for increasing her knowledge in problem gambling prevention and treatment. There are many coalitions like ours that want to engage students, whether they're freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in college. And so once again, Our coalition has folks throughout our state who participate with us. If you are on the meeting tonight and you want to engage with us in some of our committee meetings, etc., we'd be happy to have you. We actually had an intern for a year that actually was in the country of Peru for a year. So she engaged with us for a full year via our Zoom meetings, and actually was a vice chair of one of our committees, but we lived in a whole nother country. Another example, we have folks at community colleges and universities throughout our 14 counties, and some of the goals that we had for connecting people with now knowing more about this. You can see photographs of people on the table, and those are students who were engaged to the extent that they received extra recognition. So on the table that's being exhibited, you can see some full 8.5 by level photographs of some individual students who were spotlighted because they are receiving a number of credentials. They did additional things that once again helped them be successful, and going on for master's degree. These were all bachelor's level students who went on a master's degree in advanced standing programs. Um, some of the awards that we administer to some of the students who were engaged in our experiences, that we once again value student engagement. And once again, whether you're in Ohio or any adjoining states or any other states in the country, we might welcome your involvement if you have the time. Our coalition was formed in June of 2023, and that we have 60 different organizations that are involved in collaborating. We consider it a win-win environment in which we're helping any individual who wants to know more about this work be able to bring their time and skills to get enhanced. These are just some of the objectives of our coalition. If I had to say what's our hope that anyone on this Zoom tonight might look at for what's going on in the community where you live, is who is screening for substance use disorder or problem gambling in the community where you live. So is that being done in your physician office? Is that being done in the agency that you work for? Is that being done on the college campus that you may attend? If it's not being done, the hope is that there may be some places that might begin to offer the brief screening or other kinds of screenings that may help someone who is presenting a challenge also reveal that they may have challenges related to problem gambling. These are just some of the examples of some of the agencies that have partnered with us. And so for our region of the state of Ohio, our 14 counties, we have the major players in our part of the state that are engaged with our coalition because they want to know more about this. And a number of the agencies have gotten on the provider list for the state of Ohio. So going back to the 1,500 people who call that helpline every month, they need to be referred to for someone for ongoing treatment. So the helpline is for that point of emergency where that person's calling for help. Then they need to be referred to someone in the state of Ohio, and we have 88 counties. Who could they be referred to that then provides them ongoing outpatient treatment for problem gambling disorder? And many of these agencies have grown in their, and this is just a tip of the iceberg related to who now is partnered with us. Once again, a number of our coalition members actually go and exhibit throughout our communities, including we will go into the casinos. So visualize this, that you might be walking into the Hard Rock Casino and you see one of our information tables. You could imagine the kind of questions and comments that we get from individuals who come in. Some of them come up to the table to tell us a joke about, you should have been here last week before I lost XYZ, those kind of stories. But we usually try to have 2 or 3 people at the table, and here's why. One person can always be there to engage with whoever comes up to the table and the kind of conversation that they would have. But we also want a person there who's a treatment provider in the event that someone says, I have a problem. that person can then step away from the table with that individual and talk about then what are the kind of resources that might be available for that person that evening or that day, for them to begin on that discussion of their recovery. So it is a regular point that in the month of March, which is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, or the month of September, which is Responsible Gaming Month, that you'll see us in the casinos in our part of the state, and then we also sometimes do facilities in Columbus, Ohio. Once again, as awareness resource for individuals, but there are 50 some different types of organizations that we partnered with in the last 3 years to go into all kinds of different venues to help people see that this is some for some people it's not just entertainment. For some people it's a problem, and we don't want that person to suffer in silence. We want them to see that someone is there to sort of say, hey, we know for some people this is not just a matter of willpower. Even things like the darkness out of the darkness walk that occurs every year in our community, where 10,000 people might be at that particular event. Um, these are just some of the examples of the topics that we've covered in some of the trainings that we've had, just so you can see what kinds of things may be interesting to have in the community where you live. So if you're interested in doing this type of work, if you're involved in your local NASW chapter, or if you're involved in some other organization, or it may be a club on your college campus, these are some of the topics that you may want to consider or share with someone about what could be done or offered in the community where you live. So, might there be a section or session on intersection of gambling and domestic violence to empower survivors? How might that happen? Think about the casinos that have hotels connected to them. So the idea that unfortunately there are people who are being abused, and is connected to the environment of gambling, or might we as professionals know more about motivational interviewing for problem gambling? uh, One of the things that's come out of our work in our coalition is that we have had some exposure nationally, and so people do come to our website and look for additional information about resources that are available in the state of Ohio, or resources that we share through the work that we do. So we do have people who come to us with a national point of view, and our goal is that we're collaborating anywhere we can to help people know more about this effort. We were the only program in the state of Ohio in 2025 that provided specific supervision for social workers who also wanted to have those hours count towards their independent license. So people were not only getting supervision related to problem gambling treatment through the grant we had, but those same individuals were supervised by a licensed independent social worker, and 100% of those hours of supervision also counted towards them getting an independent license in the state of Ohio. That there's a certain number of independent hours or supervision hours that have to be obtained. More examples of places that we exhibited and community events. Another topic that I might share, and once again, the unfortunate correlation between suicide and problem gambling. And so, a special message to the African American community about suicide prevention. And then also a gentleman who came from the state of Ohio, a public health office, who spoke about problem gambling in the workplace, and sharing the stories of how theft might occur in the workplace, or how bankruptcy for a business might occur because of problem gambling. So it is something that the workplace employers ought to be concerned about, because unfortunately there are challenges that are occurring in the workplace that employers need to be aware of and be prepared to support their employees. Employee assistance programs also need to know about this work. And so we've been fortunate to get a number of people who come to our coalition who work for employee assistance programs, the counseling provider of employers. And then certainly want to make sure that you're aware of the hotline for this for the country, and a way that hopefully you're taking this with you, to be knowledgeable about what this is a national resource. And then this is my contact information. So we have time for questions, and if I could, I'd like to start with talking about what is your interest in coming away from tonight, and might there be resources that were mentioned in the presentation that you could go back to, or places that I could point you to for the future. So if you have a question, you could take yourself or raise the hand.
And one of the questions that came through, maybe this is just a more for you, how did you get involved in this work? And from your experience, what sort of job opportunities might social workers find themselves that intersect with this, either directly or kind of indirectly?
Great, thank you. So in the course of my career, I've spent most of my career in substance use disorder in terms of the area that I worked in as a practicing social worker. But the beauty of social work is it trains us to do so many things, that for the first 25 years of my career, I was a college administrator. So I've been a dean of students. I've been a vice president for student affairs of universities. And every day of that work, I was able to use my social work knowledge to help the lives of others be better by saying to colleges and universities, if we bring people in and are honest with them and meeting their needs as they are recruited to a campus, if we continue to meet those needs as their students, that we'll hopefully have those people coming out as graduates by all the things that we do to support them in the Maslow's hierarchy of need. So I've shared that in college campuses about how do we help people be successful, and certainly the individual's mental health is one of those ways that we ought to be mindful in doing supporting of individuals. As I've come on the college campuses as a faculty member, I look for ways to look at what's in the curriculum that is great and that we're doing the best we can do, or what's not in the curriculum that we should be looking at. So as I came into the University of Cincinnati in summer of 22, I looked at the curriculum and saw that there were no classes that mentioned gambling in any of the classes for social work, for the bachelor's level in social work. And so I was able to speak with the chair at the time. I was able to apply for a grant as I was coming into the university in fall of 22 and obtain that grant. And that was the beginning of the first ones that we received to help not only students know more about this work, but practicing social workers, because the need is so great. Normally, grant writing is like 50% success rate, or in the less than 50%. This was 90 and 100% success rate in terms of these grants, being able to obtain them, because the need is so high, not only in the state of Ohio, but across the country. So wherever you are in the country, there's probably grants that you could be applying for, or some agency could be applying for in the community where you live, that there's more work being done around prevention and treatment in this area, because it is such a great need for our country. As states make the decision to add gambling as part of a revenue source, unfortunately, what's not being thought about sometimes is what are the consequences of the revenue generation on the people who are doing that. Can they afford to be losing the money that they're losing? Those kind of things.
Thank you. Another kind of question related, somewhat related, is where should folks go to get training if their states don't have a certification or credential that's offered? Where is the next best place to find information?
Perfect question. There's an organization called the National Council on Problem Gambling. National Council on Problem Gambling, and Ohio has an affiliate chapter of that national organization that's located in Columbus. And I believe over 30 of the United States has a chapter in its state. So thank you so much for putting that under the chat. National Council on Problem Gambling. That's one of the sources that could be a grant could be written. They have twice a year that they have a grant call for proposals. So there may be a project in the county or state where you live that you all might apply for a grant for your location to do more with this topic in terms of improving the community where you live. Um, there are also, depending on the state you live in, if they do have gambling, there are there are intended to be some dollars that are available in that state that goes towards prevention and goes towards treatment. So I would encourage you to look at some of those resources as well. The beauty of some of the grants that I had is we were able to fund over 80 students. Some of them received scholarships for their tuition. Some of them received employment because of the grant. And so those are the kinds of things that we say social workers are creative folks. We want you to be thinking about what could you be doing in a community where you are to help with this challenge.
Other questions from the group? Anybody want to come off of mute or drop anything else in the chat? Takeaways from Dr. Stewart. Lots of really good information here tonight.
So my final statement would be around individuals that you may have encountered in your life that there are concerns. So let me just ask if there's questions that people have about what you might use as a next step, or if people don't want to share that personal challenge, what I would say is gathering support systems around the people we care about. So it may not just be us that may be concerned about someone else, but chances are there may be other family members or other friends or other classmates that are concerned about someone, and whether there's some effort made to gather folks to share with someone that we care about them and that we want to help them with the challenge that they may be going through, that we don't want them to suffer by themselves, because it may be that if that's what it takes for someone to see what they may be doing to themselves, and for them to consider to do something different. Um, so if there's any questions, comments about that, I'd be happy to address some of those. But it's been a pleasure being with you this evening. Um, I love being a social worker. I love the creativity I see every day from students that are going into our communities, making a difference in the communities where they live. And so I'm very grateful to all of you from throughout the country who participated this evening. I'm hoping you'll take some of this information back to your community, and whether you start some effort on your own, or whether you work with others, that you may do something in a community where you live, because our country is being challenged, and there's not enough out there.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Stewart. Really great information here today. Lots of praise in the chat. We really appreciate your time and expertise. As a reminder, we will send out the slides as well as the recording link will be available for anybody who might have missed something, or if you've got some friends who you think would be really good to listen in on some of this stuff as well. We also will have information out for our May student program soon. That one is going to be more of a national networking event. So we hope you'll join, because we know that some of you will be just graduated as of next month. And hopefully it'll be a good opportunity to continue to expand your network. But we appreciate everyone being on. If you are graduating soon, have a great last few weeks of the semester. Good luck with all of your licensing applications, which probably y'all are starting as well. If you need anything from your chapter, please reach out. This is a great time if you're not a member as a student to please join before you graduate. Much cheaper now. So get that membership in the next couple of weeks. But we hope to see you next month. And thank you all for joining here tonight. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.